Hello, ladies and gentlemen. For you guys that don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make NBA DFS content, NFL content, sportsbook content, any content you could possibly think of for DFS and props, sportsbook plays. All the videos, they go to this Reddit. I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day, so I'll have that linked down below, as always. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter right here. And then if you're looking for more in-depth content, I'll have my Discord linked down below, where sportsbook plays for every sport, DFS for every sport, cash course, GPP course, private videos, whole bunch of stuff. Great community. I'll have that link down below as well. Yeah, before we get into the slate, I know a lot of you guys don't watch the showdown videos, so we'll go over my results again for the season. I had 7% ROI on the NFL season last year and a 8% ROI total. And then on the Friday slate, I'll do a breakdown of my results for Thursday, Friday, Sunday in the Monday showdown video. So we'll do that on Sunday night, I believe. But I did break even on Thursday, and I believe Xavier Worthy just got hurt, and I have 100% of him, so that's fun. We'll see how that ends up. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the video. I'm sorry if my voice sounds weird. I got a tooth pulled like 6 months ago, and the missing tooth part is like really swollen right now. I don't know what's going on personally. But yeah, let's just hop right into the slate. We're just going to go team by team, player by player. We'll talk about the quarterbacks I like the most, and we'll talk about cash games and stuff like that. So let's go over it. Raiders at the New England Patriots. Pretty disgusting game here, if you ask me. Only a 44.5 total. The Patriots are 2.5 point favorites. So I'm not really into Geno Smith much at all. For this slate, this is just going to be a slow, sloggy, disgusting game. So I'm going to pass on Geno Smith. I think there's a lot better options down in that cheaper range. Pricing is pretty soft week one, as always. Pricing is always going to be soft earlier in the season, so you can fit a lot of players in. So I will be passing on Geno Smith personally. Ashton Jeanty at $7,000. I don't understand this price point for him. He's in this price range where you have absolute really good plays at running back. You have Bucky Irving. You have Wilmonder CMC. You have Ashane, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, Chase Brown, etc. Alvin Kamara. Really good plays below him. So strictly just a tournament-only play for me. I don't mind it in GPPs just because he'll get absolutely squeezed. No one's going to play him. He's going to be a workhorse back. I don't mind it. I think it's fine. He's probably my favorite play on the Raiders outside of a Brock Bowers, who I think is a fine tight end play. I think I'm going to be living in that cheaper tight end range this week personally, but no issue with Brock Bowers as always. And then I'm not really into too much else here. I think it's mainly just Brock, sprinkling some Ashton, and then moving on. As far as cash game plays, no cash game plays personally for me in this game. All right, let's move on to the Patriots, and I actually don't mind this Patriots team. More so like a Drake May stack in large field GPPs. I don't know if I'm going to include him in my pool. FanDuel's doing like a milli thing where you get your entries back that don't cash in like 150 max, so I'll probably be 150 maxing over on FanDuel this week. So I'll probably sprinkle in some Drake May, not at a high percentage, but I don't mind him. I'm expecting big things from Drake May this season. Obviously, dual threat, can run on the ground. I do expect this team to run the ball a bit though. But yeah, no issue with May. Running back, I'm just going to pass. I don't really want to play Henderson or Stevenson, although I think Henderson's probably going to lead this team in snaps. As far as wide receiver goes, really just sprinkling them in if I'm playing any Drake May, like Demario Douglas, Diggs, and like Hunter Henry. But I'm really not too excited about much personally in this game. And then we get to a game that I actually like quite a bit in tournaments. And I think the stacks in this game are going to be somewhat low owned. We have a 46.5 total. Carolina at Jacksonville 3.5 point favorites, and I'm very high on Bryce Young this season. I like him quite a bit in tournaments. I think he's at around that 2% projected ownership range. This game should stay competitive, right? I like the spots for pretty much everyone in this game, so I'm really, really high on Bryce Young as a tournament puke stack if you want to do it. I am going to be over the field on Bryce Young this week. Chuba Hubbard should get the majority of the work. Was a workhorse last season, expecting quite the same here. Probably getting most of the volume. I think he's fine. No real strong takes with him. And then, yeah, I love McMillan. No Thielen, no Coker. McMillan going to get a significant bump. He's going to be their clear go-to guy. I bet his receptions. I bet his receiving yards. I wouldn't do that. They're already bumped quite a bit. Love the spot here. Really like McMillan as a standalone play and alongside stacks with Bryce Young. And then we get to tight end. Sanders, I think, is a decent value as well. I don't mind that. But really looking to like McMillan stacks. Legette's fine as well. That's okay. And then Bryce Young as well. As far as cash game plays, I think McMillan, where did we go? I think McMillan is a pretty solid option if you need a mid-range wide receiver. I think he's going to be somewhat popular in both formats, so I think he's a good play. You don't really have any cheap wide receiver punt values that you need because the pricing is so soft this week. And then we get to Trevor Lawrence, who I also really like this week in GPPs. Great spot, Carolina going up against Carolina. Love Brian Thomas. I don't know if I'm going to get to like a Travis Hunter in week 1, but of course he's going to be low owned. You can always take shots there. Obviously, he's extremely, extremely talented. And then we get to one of my favorite tight end plays on the slate in Britton Strange. So, like, my favorite pairing would be like a T-Law Thomas, Britton Strange with a bring back of like McMillan, right? I love this game in GPPs. Definitely factoring in ownership. 2 stacks that I'm definitely going to be overweight to. Cash game plays on Jacksonville. Brian Thomas you could always get to in cash. And Britton Strange I think is a really good option for cash game if you need a punt, but I'll probably just be playing Njoku like the rest of the field. All right, Arizona at the Saints, 43.5. The Cardinals are 6.5 point favorites. Yeah, no issue with Kyler Murray. He's kind of like in that grouping where I'm just like not going to make any rules on. Nothing I'm too excited about, but nothing I'm against like at all. And I think Kyler's interesting as like a leverage play off chalk James Conner. James Conner is going to be extremely popular this week. So that's an interesting leverage play if you wanted to. James Conner, definitely one of the top running back options in a great spot going up against the Saints. Probably going to be extremely popular. I think he's one of the better, one of the best running back plays in the slate. I think if you're playing cash games, you can absolutely play him. I think he's one of the better point per dollar running back plays in the slate. And I like Marvin Harrison. I'm really excited about Marvin Harrison. I think if you want to pivot off those mid-range and like an Egbuka, those Chalk McMillans, I think it's okay. I'm not really going to get too much else here as far as the wide receivers go. And I think Trey McBride is one, probably if you're spending all the way up at tight end this week, I think McBride's probably my favorite option and of course, cash viable. Moving on to the Saints, I'm probably not going to get to any Rattler in GPPs. I think Kamara is going a little bit over-owned for my liking in GPPs, so I'll probably take a little bit of an underweight stance there, but if you're playing cash games, another great option. And then as far as wide receiver goes, I think I'm just going to pass on the rest of this team. I think Kamara is just the best play here. And I'm probably not going to play any Rattler. No cash game options outside of Alvin Kamara on the Saints, personally, for me. And then we get to a game, love this game, another one of my more favorite GPP games on the slate, personally. We have a 48.5 total here, Bengals minus 5.5. I absolutely love Joe Burrow. If for some reason you're not playing Daniels and cash, you can always play Joe Burrow. I don't think we have to go over this. I think everyone's great plays. I love Chase Brown in this offense, just a great offense. Going to get a ton of touches. There's no competition behind him involved in the passing game. He is fantastic. Love Jamar Chase. Love T. Higgins. I'm not going to get to any of the tight ends personally, but I think this offense looks fantastic. No issues with playing any of them in cash or GPPs as far as Joe Burrow goes, Chase Brown goes, Jamar Chase goes if you want to spend all the way up at the top. Moving on to Cleveland, another very, I wouldn't say it's disgusting, but another cheap quarterback option that I'm definitely probably going to be overweight to the field to is going to be Joe Flacco. Just the environment that Cincinnati is always in, just they're going to be playing from ahead, and it's just a fantasy environment that I absolutely love. And we know with the Browns, Joe Flacco is going to absolutely throw the ball a ton. That's what they do. So I love some Flacco and GPPs. If I'm pairing him with wide receivers, it's going to be Judy and David Njoku for me personally. That would be my favorite pairing. I'm not going to get to any of the running backs here, but love Flacco, love Judy, And I love David Njoku. I think he's my favorite tight end play on the slate, but he's going to be one of the most popular plays at tight end on the slate. But I think it's for a fantastic reason. Just absolute absurd target market share with Joe Flacco at quarterback compared to anyone else. So love those guys. As far as cash games options, I think Njoku is probably going to be the highest owned tight end on the slate. And then Jerry Jeudy is going to be one of the more popular wide receiver plays in the slate. Great options in cash. And I also think you could use Joe Flacco in cash if you wanted to, but I don't think it's necessary on this slate personally. Moving on to Miami. I think this game's pretty sneaky. I don't think anyone's really going to get to any of this game pretty much at all. So I do like Tua as like a sneaky GPP stack this week. Unfortunately, Tyreek Hill's not in the best spot here personally, but we can always get around matchups. So I do like Tua as a contrarian stack. I think Tyreek's interesting in that range of like chalk that nobody's going to play. And then I'd always just prefer playing like Waddle, Tyreek double stack here if you wanted to. And then we get to one of the best, same with like James Conner, one of the best running back plays in the slate in O'Shane. More like no competition as of right now. Heavily involved in the passing game. Good spot. Just a PPR monster. If you're playing cash games, it's going to be a great option as well. Another chalky piece where I think the chalk is pretty damn good. If you wanted to get off of Shane chalk, I really think Tua doubles are really, really intriguing. If you aren't playing any of Shane, you want to get off that chalk. I think that's really intriguing leverage this week. Then we get to the Colts. Daniel Jones, yeah, fine with it. No strong takes there. We get to running back Jonathan Taylor, I think looks great. Love him, another workhorse. It's going to get a ton of volume going up against Miami. Love that. Another cash game option as well if you need it. I don't mind that at all. And then we get to wide receiver. I'm a huge Josh Downs believer this season. I think he's a great tournament play. One of my more favorite tournament punts on the slate. Really like him, and I think that's mainly it. Personally, as far as cash games options go on the Colts, I think you can get to Jonathan Taylor, and I think Josh Downs is viable. Moving on to the Giants. You couldn't pay me to play Russell Wilson this week, so I will be passing. As far as running back goes, I think Tracy's going to be the heavy workhorse in the beginning of the season. We know Russell Wilson likes to dump it off to the running back, so I think he has a high floor with the ceiling in a higher total game that I don't think anyone's going to play. So I think Tracy's really intriguing at 5.6K. Neighbors is fine at 7K. I don't mind that. I think there's other personal wide receivers that look a little bit better to me. I'm not going to get to too much of this stack. Wide receivers are always going to correlate with the stacks that you're playing. So like going over wide receiver is kind of pointless. It's mainly the stacks that you're playing personally. So it's kind of pointless, but we do go over it anyway. All right, yeah, that's it for the Giants. Not much there. As far as Washington goes, we go to the cash game quarterback of the week. That's Jaden Daniels. If you're playing cash this week, I highly suggest throwing in Jaden Daniels in your lineup. Just high floor, high ceiling. Nobody has this rushing upside. Just phenomenal play. He looks great. And then Eckler, if you're getting off of those Daniels stacks, I think is interesting. I think he'll be the undisputed running back one for this team. Good pass blocker as well, if I recall correctly. So I think he's best fit at 4.8K. And then we go to wide receiver. I think I'll probably be underweight to Daniel stacks and GPPs, but I'm more so interested in him in cash. Alright guys, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. We get to some games that I don't love anyway. As far as the Steelers, I think we can basically just cross this game off. I don't think I'm too interested in anyone here. As far as the Jets go, Justin Fields, if it was any other spot, I'd have some consideration. I don't like Breece Hall at all, and I'm not really into any of the tight ends or wide receivers, so we can go over that. And then we get to another game that I absolutely love this week, and I absolutely love Baker Mayfield this week in GPPs. I love Mike Evans. I think Mbuka is going to be the highest owned wide receiver play on the slate. I think it's for good reason. No Chris Godwin. Going to be filling in that all-beloved slot role for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so he should get a ton of volume. He is way too cheap. He should be like a 5.6 to 6K player. Yeah, if you're playing cash, probably just plug him in. He looks phenomenal. Love Mike Evans, and I think he can get to like Otten, but I'm probably just going to be doubling with Mike Evans and Egbuka personally, and I think one of my more favorite GPP stacks on the week. And if you're playing cash games, Yeah, like I said, Egbuka, if you're playing cash, probably just play him. And then Mike Evans is a good option as well. Moving on to Atlanta. Yeah, I think Penix is firmly in play in GPPs. No issue with Penix at all, personally. Who did not suit up for any is ready to go. Cool. This game, extremely high total. I believe I bet the over 46.5 total. If that's still up, you guys can go bet it. And then we get to Bijan. Going to be a great play this season. I think I'm more so interested in the stacking of this game, but Bijan is always going to be great. Going to be low owned on this slate as well. As far as wide receiver goes, I think Drake London's one of the best wide receiver point per dollar plays on the slate at 6.5K. Love him. And then we get to tight end. If you want to go to like an unknown Kyle Pitts, and just the Kyle Pitts believers are in so much pain. If this is his year, all means, so be it. He's firmly in play at 4.3K. Wish he was a little bit cheaper though. But yeah, love this game as far as a stack goes. Then we get to San Francisco, some more cash game options that look pretty good. Unfortunately, CMC is dealing with that injury. I think the game thing says he's feeling great. So we'll just monitor this. If he was full go and 100% healthy, he would be by far the best running back play on the slate. I am just not a believer in that, but we'll keep monitoring that. If we get news that he is healthy, no limits, I don't know if we already got any of that news. He would look great, but I'm going to cautious right now. He's probably going to be low owned this week because of that. I noticed his projection dropped a little bit. You have Juwan Jennings coming back off of injury. Ricky Purcell, who I really like at 4.5K. And you have George Kittle, who I think is another great tight end option that I think will go a little bit lower owned than the options that we mentioned in like Britton Strange, Trey McBride, and Njoku, those types that are going to be the ones popular in cash. And then, yeah, like Brock Purdy. As far as cash games goes, I think you can definitely get this in George Kittle in cash. I think Purcell is viable in cash. Not necessarily needed, though. Moving on to Seattle. Not interested in Seattle pretty much anything. I'm not a huge fan of Ken Walker this week. I am not a huge fan of the wide receivers. I am not a huge fan of pretty much anything on Seattle this week. And then we get to the gross games pretty much, which I'm mainly passing on. Passing on Tennessee. Pollard's going to get a lot of ownership. I'd like to be underweight to Pollard and GPPs personally, but good cash option if you need it. Denver, I'm pretty much off of this team personally this week, so yeah. Straightforward there. And then we get to Houston, who I don't love much of anything this week personally. I think I'm just mainly passing. And then we get to the Rams. Where I think I'm mainly just passing. I think there's better spots that I'd like to, and I feel like I missed a game. Oh, here it is. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, no strong takes on Goff. I think I'd rather just pass. I think there's better plays at running back. I think I'm not really too interested in the Detroit side of this game, but I am more so interested on the Green Bay side of this game. So yeah, Love's a sneaky stack this week. Josh Jacobs, going to be popular if I recall correctly. And then we have Tucker Kraft as a cheap tight end punt that is viable in a cash game setting as well. So if we're going to go back, I think my favorite stacks of the week that I'd like to keep in my pool are going to be Carolina, Jacksonville. I don't mind Kyler. Cincinnati, Cleveland, Miami, Washington, Tampa Bay, Atlanta, San Francisco, and I think that's it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those would be my 10 favorite stacks on the week, and they're the more chalkier ones, but I did throw in some lower owned ones for you guys. And yeah, if you guys want like a quick cash game core, I guess this is not guaranteed to be my core on the week that I'm going to be playing, but I can give you guys a quick one, I suppose. Daniels, Egbuka, Connor, and Njoku, I guess, is where I'd start in my cash builds personally this week. But that could change. That might not be the core that I give out. And then my favorite low-owned stack. I'm going to go with Bryce Young as my favorite low-owned stack this week. You got to understand it's probably going to fail more often than not. There is a reason he's only projecting for 1 to 2% ownership. But my favorite low-owned stacks, I'm going to say it's either Bryce Young or Joe Flacco. Now, the counterparts are going to be popular in like McMillan, and Njoku, etc., but the quarterbacks themselves aren't going to be popular. So I like those two as really low-owned options if you need them. All right, that's going to do it for the slate, guys. Hopefully you guys had a great night. I will talk to y'all in the next video.